welcome to The Ordinary Effect. I'm your host, Guido Perino, here to look at stuff that we may notice but rarely talk about, or perhaps sometimes just don't want to talk about it. But today, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about who gets to be ordinary on the biggest stage. Do you know what I'm talking about yet? Look, there's something revealing about how quickly people say, why does everything have to be political? Because most of the time, what they're really saying is, why does this require me to learn something? Large cultural events, especially something like the Super Bowl, have trained us to expect familiarity, not just in music or visuals, but in worldview. We're used to shows that assume we already understand the story being told, because it's a story that's been repeated so often it feels invisible. So when something unfamiliar appears, people don't always reject it because they disagree with it. They reject it because it interrupts that invisibility. That's the tension at the heart of the Bad Bunny halftime show. And to understand why it landed the way it did, we have to slow down and explain the realities it brought with it, not just the imagery. When the show opens in a sugarcane field, that image isn't symbolic in the abstract. It's specific. Sugarcane shaped Puerto Rico's economy for centuries under Spanish and later American colonial control. It required backbreaking labor, paid little, and generated wealth that flowed outward to corporations, to governments, to markets far removed from the people cutting the cane. This wasn't ancient history. It structured daily life for generations. When you start a performance there, you're not saying, look how far we've come. You're saying, this is where modern prosperity actually starts. And that's uncomfortable because it challenges the clean myth that success is born from innovation alone, rather than from systems that relied on invisible labor. When Bad Bunny stands at the field dressed like a worker, not elevated, not glamorous, he's rejecting the idea that success requires erasing origin. He's saying, I am successful, and I am still connected to the people and places that made that possible. That matters because so many cultural success stories are framed as escape narratives, leaving the old life behind, becoming unmarked. This performance refuses that erasure. The same refusal shows up in the casita, the small house that sits uncomfortably in the middle of $1 billion broadcast. To understand that image, you have to understand what home means when infrastructure is unreliable. After Hurricane Maria in 2017, much of Puerto Rico lost power for months. Some communities waited nearly a year for electricity to be fully restored. Families cooked together, slept together, told stories together. Not because it was nostalgic, but because there was no other choice. The casita isn't a symbol of poverty. It's a symbol of survival when systems fail. It represents the place people return to when institutions disappear, where culture is preserved without needing permission, where language, music, and memory live even when everything else is stripped away. Putting that house at the center of the Super Bowl is a deliberate contradiction. It says, the places you consider small are where life actually holds. This is why the performance keeps returning to endurance instead of triumph. The boxers, they don't fight, they stand. That distinction matters. Boxing, especially in Caribbean and Latin communities, has historically been one of the few ways out of economic precarities. But it also symbolizes discipline, pain, persistence under pressure. Standing boxers say something specific. We have taken the hits. We are still upright. Not victorious, not defeated, present. Then there's Ricky Martin. For listeners who might not remember, Ricky Martin was one of the first Puerto Rican artists to achieve massive mainstream success in the United States. But that success came with conditions. He sang primarily in English. His sound was softened. His cultural specificity was diluted to fit expectations. That wasn't a failure. It was a survival strategy within the system that existed at the time. His appearance here isn't about nostalgia. It's about lineage. It shows how access has evolved from translation to assertion. Bad Bunny doesn't reject what came before him. He builds on it, but he no longer negotiates his identity for entry. The same quiet confidence appears in Lady Gaga's role. Her pale blue dress echoes a lighter shade historically associated with Puerto Rican independence movements, a color that predates the modern flag and carries political meaning without needing to announce itself. This isn't symbolism designed to persuade. It's symbolism designed to exist. And the song she sings, Die with a Smile, takes on a heavier meaning in this context, because for communities whose survival has been politicized, whose right to exist is constantly debated, joy itself becomes an act of resistance. The song asks, what does it mean to live with dignity when comfort has never been guaranteed? Then we arrive at the moment that requires the most explanation, because without context, its power is lost. Bad Bunny brings a young boy on stage and places a Grammy in his hands. This isn't a random child. The boy represents a real and widely reported reality. Children who've been deported from the United States by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, alongside their parents. These are not children who committed crimes. They didn't choose to break laws. They're often removed because of decisions made years earlier by adults within systems that treat families as case files. Deportation isn't an abstract policy. It means children pulled from schools, from friends, from languages they speak fluently. It means returning to countries they may barely remember or have ever known at all. By placing the Grammy, a symbol of recognition, legitimacy, and success, into the child's hands, Bad Bunny collapses a contradiction we're used to ignoring. We celebrate achievement while refusing to look at dispossession. We clap for winners while quietly accepting systems that discard others. That moment says, worth does not come from approval. And that's not sentimental. It's radical. Finally, Bad Bunny holds a football. On it are the words, "Together we are America." That phrase matters because it reframes the entire performance. America here is not a border. It's not a passport. It's not a single language or story. It's a collective reality that already exists, whether acknowledged or not. The discomfort this caused wasn't about disagreement. It was about default being challenged. When one story has always been treated as universal, sharing space can feel like erasure, even when nothing is taken away. This halftime show didn't demand agreement. It demanded attention. It asked viewers to sit with histories they may not know, systems they may not experience, and realities that don't usually occupy the center of the frame. Sugarcane fields, small homes, endurance over victory, children shaped by policy, joy as dignity. You have goosebumps yet? These aren't fringe stories. They're ordinary ones for millions of people. And that may be the most unsettling part of all, because the show wasn't asking for permission to belong. It assumed it already did. And once that assumption is made visible, the world doesn't quite snap back into place the way it used to. Thank you for joining me this week on The Ordinary Effect. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing. Be well, be kind, take care.